If your engine failed tomorrow, would a $12 decision be the reason? Mechanics say the quickest way to kill a healthy engine isn't mileage. It's cheap filters and wrong fluids. In this video, we'll expose the exact parts that turn a routine oil change into a future rebuild, and why using lower octane fuel in engines that require higher octane quietly shaves years off their life. Stick around to see how saving a few loonies today can void warranties, spike long-term costs, and put you on the fast track to premature engine wear, and the simple swaps that stop it. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. A $12 filter, a $40 jug of fluid. Why do these tiny savings cause four-figure engine bills? Because modern engines aren't built around close enough. They're built around exact filtration targets and specific chemical packages that keep metal surfaces apart, hold soot in suspension, and manage heat. When you swap in a part that only looks right, you're swapping out a chunk of the protection the engineers counted on. That's the trap. Off-brand parts love the phrase OE fit. Fit isn't function. A filter can thread on and still miss the mark on the things that matter. How fine the media captures particles, what pressure the bypass valve opens at during a cold start, and whether the anti-drainback valve seals properly overnight. Same story for fluids. Two bottles can both say synthetic, yet one has the detergent, dispersant, and anti-wear additives your engine needs, and the other has a generic blend that breaks down sooner and leaves deposits behind. Here's where it goes sideways in real life. You do a routine oil change with a bargain filter. For a week, it seems fine. Then the anti-drainback valve, made from cheaper nitrile, starts to harden. After a few hours parked, oil drains out of the galleries. On startup, the pump has to refill the filter and passages before pressure builds. For a second or two, bearings run dry. You don't hear it. The dash stays quiet. But that dry start repeats hundreds of times over months. Each event is microscopic wear that stacks up into rattly timing chains, scored cam lobes, and bearings that show copper early. Filtration ratings explain why this escalates. A decent oil filter will publish particle capture by micron size in a beta ratio, how many particles go in versus how many make it through at a given size. A strong media might be rated to catch the majority of 20 micron particles, with a beta ratio showing only a fraction escape. Lower quality cellulose media often lets more fine grit circulate. Those particles are the perfect size to ride the oil film and carve tracks in bearings and cam surfaces. You don't need a catastrophic failure for damage to happen, just a steady stream of abrasive fines the media fails to trap. Now the oil itself. Full synthetic means very little unless it carries the approval your engine was designed around. Approvals like Dexos, MB229.5, or VW504/507 aren't stickers for show. They reflect testing for oxidation resistance, shear stability, sludge control, and compatibility with emission systems. An oil that actually meets those approvals holds viscosity under heat, neutralizes acids, keeps deposits from forming, and protects turbo bearings and timing components. A generic synthetic without approvals can shear thin, leave varnish, and shorten the life of seals and catalysts. The difference isn't visible in the bottle. It shows up as stuck rings, increased oil consumption, and hot running turbos. There's also the warranty problem. Manufacturers require parts and fluids to meet their specs. If a failure occurs and the replacement parts can't prove compliance, that claim becomes an uphill battle. Saving a few dollars at the register can convert into a denied repair that costs more than a year of proper maintenance. Cheap parts also make the engine work harder to keep itself clean and cool. Poorly bonded filter media can shed fibers that lodge in tiny oil passages. Weak additive packages let sludge form, shrinking return paths and trapping heat. As temperatures creep up, oil thins, oxidation speeds up, and the cycle accelerates. That's how a small compromise grows into a major repair. So the payoff is simple. Off-brand parts don't remove protection because they look different. They remove it because they fail spec. If a filter or oil doesn't list the exact OEM approval, you're multiplying risk with every mile. And if parts can quietly shorten engine life, fuel choices can do it even faster, without a single warning light to tip you off. Your dashboard doesn't warn you when octane is too low, but your pistons will. Octane isn't about power in a bottle, It's a resistance rating against knock for high compression and turbo engines. When the manual says required, that's a hard line because the engine's tune, boost, and combustion temperature are calibrated for that fuel's stability. Recommended gives you some wiggle room. Required does not. The computer can pull timing and cut boost to try to keep things safe, but it can't change basic chemistry in the chamber. Here's where many drivers get caught. They see premium prices, they know modern engines have knock sensors, and they figure the car will protect itself. Short term, it starts, runs, and the check engine light stays off. Long term, the control system keeps retarding timing to avoid knock, and that trade-off raises exhaust temperatures and loads the pistons and valves with more heat than the engineers intended for daily use. You don't feel the wear building, but the metal keeps score. Take a common turbo four-cylinder that requires premium. Feed it 87 for months. The ECU hears knock, trims timing, and you get softer throttle response. Combustion finishes later, heat goes into the exhaust, and chronic light knock events slip through under heavy load or hot weather. The owner says it runs fine at 30,000. By 80,000, the ring lands have micro cracks from repeated pressure spikes. A cold morning misfire shows up, oil consumption rises, and a teardown reveals pitted piston crowns and bearings with hammered overlays. The knock sensor did its job, it just couldn't erase physics. Pre-ignition and knock create sharp pressure spikes. Those spikes hit rod bearings and piston crowns like a mallet. Over time, you see flattened bearing layers, fretting on the big ends, and carbon heat spots that start pre-ignition sooner. The ECU's long-term adaptation protects against immediate failure by cutting timing and sometimes boost, but that strategy reduces power while shifting more heat into the exhaust valves, turbo turbine, and catalytic converter. You pay for durability with heat, and heat taxes everything downstream. Chemistry isn't only a fuel story. Transmission and coolant fluids rely on specific additive packages. An ATF with the wrong friction modifiers can make shifts feel gritty or flare, wearing clutches faster even if the fluid looks clean. A coolant with heavy silicates used in a system designed for OAT chemistry slowly scours water pump seals and plates the tiny passages in the radiator. The car still drives, but you're stacking future bills. Seepage at hose ends, a clutch pack that starts to shudder, and a radiator that loses efficiency year by year. Maintenance schedules call out more than mileage. They name oil specs, coolant types, and ATF standards for a reason. And once the warranty window closes, repair costs rise. That's when early wear starts showing up as chronic expenses instead of isolated fixes. Owners who cut corners on chemistry often meet the same endpoint: more frequent repairs and bigger invoices than the drivers who match specs from day one. The money math looks simple at the pump, but the risk compounds. Save a few dollars on 87 today, run hotter for years, and you can take out a catalytic converter with unburned fuel from knock events, poison O2 sensors, and overwork a turbo that lives on thin margins of heat tolerance. One small choice becomes a line of failing parts.